Hello,
Yes, I
and
am.
welcome to Dwarf Fortress. This is episode 2, and guess what? It's immediately after I left off the other one, though you don't know that. So, anyway, last time I was talking about how every time you're gonna do something in any world, you have to stop what you were doing previously. So, like, I already have a world saved on this computer. Um, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use the one that I generated. But it's like, it's in year 125, and it's a dwarf fortress called Bobriculzo. Something. Um, but it tells you the name of the fortress and then what it is. So it's like if you're in adventure mode, it'll be the name of your adventure. I have never played an adventure mode long enough to save and quit. So that's something. Anyway, you probably won't have the continue playing option. You'll have the start playing. And there are 3 options. And you can choose adventure, you can choose a dwarf fortress, or you can choose legends. Legends is not a game mode, and it's what I'm going to go into right now just to show you some things. It is a record of every place, every person, every event, and a whole bunch of other things that are important from the world. So,
So legend is just a pretty much a book of legend.
yeah, it really just is. It's just like an enchiridion of the world. So here's a
That's
list
kind
of
of
the
cool,
historical
actually.
figures. What?
I said that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, so like, but look, here's an alphabetical. It's not alphabetical. It might be time. I don't know how it's listed. Anyway,
Oh
here's
wow.
just a list of all
Okay,
the people.
that's a lot.
You don't know. You don't know how many pages there are. We have a
How many
250-year-old
pages?
world. There are, let's go back and see, there are 67,418 people that are listed in this. And
That's okay.
it
Wow.
tells you their name, it tells you the translation of their name, and then it tells you what they are. So, because I'm really close to dragons, let's leave it with that. Let's choose the dragon. So look, it just shows everything that she did that is important.
Wow.
And on the side on the right side you can see the scroll bar.
That's okay.
So like it's just like fucking there's so much in this game and I love it because it's like the number one lesson that you need to learn with Dwarf Fortress is that even though there is so much, not all of it matters. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't comprehend soon enough, and they just leave the game
Oh.
behind.
Oh.
You can't care. You just have to let it go. I want to
Hmm.
try and kill her.
What?
I'm just looking, and it's like she's been here since the beginning of the world. Literally.
Okay.
Um,
I was about to,
in the
that was
first year of the world.
about to be
And then
very
it's
confused.
just a list of fucking hell. It's just a list of everything she has done until now. And she's a goddess. She's still alive. Like, when I start this world, she will still be alive. It's just she's been there since the beginning, and she is now worshipped as a goddess.
Huh. That's interesting.
like there, look, in the mid-spring of 234, she fought with a dwarf, and he was defeated, but he escaped.
Oh.
In the year 234, she stole a scepter during her rampage, apparently. It's like there's just a lot of stuff that... There's just a lot of stuff. And then look, here's a list of all the related entries that reference her. And it looks like they're all enemies. And she killed 97 other people in this list.
Oh, well.
So it's like, let's go down to the humans. Because some of these will die. They should have shorter lists. No, he was just born. Dwarf. All of these are new. Let's just hold page up for a while. Because that's kind of what you need to do. 237, and then nothing else. So it's like they all have things that are important to them, but they aren't necessarily a huge list. So it's like it's basically the idea. Okay, so you've got a dragoness, and she just basically made the world. She was part of the very beginning. She helped form the world and the cultures around her. She gets worshipped. So she has a huge list, and she's been in many fights. And then there are humans and dwarves that are listed in this because they are historical figures, but they only necessarily did one thing. They could have just made a really important piece of art. And you can make a really important piece of art and do nothing else. Like, you can make you can write one book and then nothing else that you do is necessarily significant, but you are still going to be recognized, and that's the idea of this. A bunch of regions, and look, it shows you in a little mini map where they are. This mini map is the entire world. Like, this is the entire thing just shrunken down.
So does the Book of Legends hold everything? Does like the legend hold everything?
It holds everything that is recorded. It will always hold everything that you do. But it also holds a bunch of other stuff that is important to... It's basically holding everything that is saved. So it's like, there are more people in this world than are recorded. Or at least I'm hoping there are. There are more than 68,000 people. It's just not all of them do anything. Like, no, I know for a fact there are more than 68,000, because technically, within this list of historical figures, there are monsters too. There are beasts. That, like, the beasts, like the regular animals, they don't necessarily matter. But they still have, like, a full history if you go into them when you're in Adventure Dwarf Fortress mode. Like, all of them still exist. You can go through and you can see the historical maps. So it's like, this is how the world used to be. You can look through and see what ruled what. Where all the different places were.
So pretty much, after you generate the world, you can then look at the legend and see all that went down before you actually started.
And normally I just do it because it's just something fun. Here is the Age of Myth, and it's just kind of when you're playing the game, both in Fortress and in Adventure mode, you have a list of announcements, and it's basically just kind of like if you had a scribe that was describing everything that happened. And it's just kind of a list of all the events. So that's what this is. It's a list of all the events that happened. And I'm going to tell you and the viewers right now, everything that I am saying could be complete bullshit. There is so much to this game that this is my interpretation of it. I've done a bit of research, and honestly, it doesn't really matter. You don't need to understand any of this to play the game and have fun with it. But it's like, this is how I understand what is happening. And I enjoy it. Like, I don't know if this is true, but it said back there, I clicked off of it and I don't feel like going back into it because it'll load. If you didn't notice, for all of the entries, not every entry was there. It's had a number out of a number. And what I personally would assume that is, I mean, it would make sense in this game, those are lost entries. Those are things that did happen, they were important, the game does have them recorded, but you need to go through as either an adventurer or like studying as a dwarf have a dwarf study it in Fortress, or something like that to actually recover them, because they're lost to history, because in the real world that happens. The burning of the library. What's it called? The Alexander Library? What was it called? Ruby? Please. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But we lost a whole load of information. And it's just information that we won't have again. We'll never have those records that were burnt. But it's just it's another part of history, and that's kind of what I think is going on there. Is it? I don't know. I could look it up, but it doesn't matter. So what it's doing here is it actually, every time you start a new world, it progresses through a certain amount of time. This time it's 2 weeks. And it basically just goes through all the days, has stuff happen in the rest of the world, until you get to that blue X on the calendar. And yes, this game has its own set of months. So, that is something interesting that I've always enjoyed. And of course, like with the world gen, anytime they are building anything in the world, it takes a while.
Even tiny things? Even tiny things?
I don't really know what it generates in this time period. I know that things happen, but it's like,
okay.
when you're actually playing through a fortress, it's really hard to tell the flow of time, like, as it's actually happening, because it doesn't do, like, a day-night cycle. It doesn't need it. It does in adventure mode, but it's like, when you're just controlling the fortress, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, you really don't need that.
Because it's like, they're dwarves. They sleep whenever. They drink whenever. They eat whenever. They don't have a schedule that's based off of a flaming ball in the sky. So, once you start a fortress, you get to choose where it goes. And you have 3 maps, and this is very daunting. Don't you think, Ruby? What do you think of this?
As a place to start?
No. What do you think of this screen?
I think it's
a bit
zoomed
a
in.
bit terrifying.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right, I'm gonna
pretty
explain it.
terrifying actually.
And it is all labeled, and you can press, I think, question mark, and it'll just explain everything. But it's like, it's a manual. It's massive, and everything blue is another
Jesus.
page.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And what I very quickly learned, and I think it's probably the best way to play, uh, watch a video like this, or probably somebody a bit more competent than me, and figure out how things work, like on a basic level. And I am going to explain it as best I can. And then from that point on, just when you find something that you don't understand, Google it. The Dwarf Fortress Wiki explains everything great I've found, and then everything that you can't find, you can normally find on the Bay 12 forums. And I don't really care if people think, if anybody thinks that that's like cheating. It's not. With a game this big and like this notorious for being massive, you just get as much help as you can. The whole point is having fun, so don't burden yourself if with not knowing how to play because it's too much information. So just don't learn more than you need, and you'll have a lot more fun, and you will remember it better. At least that's what I think.